What is going on, everybody? I am back today to talk about one of the newest released films in A24's catalog that I was actually really excited to see for two reasons. The first reason is this is directed by Robert Eggers' brothers, and if you guys don't know, Robert Eggers is one of my favorite working directors. I have tattoos for The Lighthouse and The Witch on my arm. I am obsessed with Robert Eggers' movies. I think he is a brilliant director who consistently surprises me again and again. And so seeing his brothers coming out and saying, we want to make a horror movie, I was very excited because you hope it is one of those instances where talent is running in the family. And then the other thing I was excited about is that this movie stars Brandy, who has not done anything in quite some time. And I've always really enjoyed Brandy. And when she's acted, I think she has a great personality and she's very talented. And so all of those things put together, I was looking forward to watching this movie. And the film I'm going to be discussing with you today is The Front Room. The Front Room is directed by Max and Sam Eggers. Everything goes to hell for newly pregnant Belinda after her mother-in-law moves in. As the diabolical guest tries to get her claws on the child, Belinda must draw the line somewhere. So I feel like the best way to sum up this movie is in the words of one of the characters in the film, the stepmother, Solange. And this movie is an mess. This thing is terrible. And I honestly cannot believe that this movie exists. I am thrilled to tell you that there are some moments that get into so bad it's good territory that I was laughing so hard I was gonna cry. But it is terrible. The structure of this film is terrible. The script is awful. It doesn't feel like a horror movie. It feels like it's trying to say something, but it's so underdeveloped in a way that none of the themes that it's trying to explore are done in a way that resonate with you when the movie is over. It's anticlimactic. It feels like nothing in the movie is earned, and I'm going to break it all down for you when I talk about the film today. So at the beginning of the film, we are introduced to Belinda, played by Brandy, Norman, played by Andrew Burnap, and the two are about to have a baby. Belinda is very far along. They're living in this house together, and Belinda works as a professor at a college, and Norman is a lawyer or an attorney, and so they're barely ever home, but Belinda is having trouble at her job and she can't get in contact with her boss. She's about to go on pregnancy leave, and through this certain set of circumstances, she ends up quitting the college, and she comes home and tells her husband, and simultaneously they get a phone call that Norman's dad has died, and Norman tells Belinda about it, and he's a little distraught, but at the same time he starts talking about his childhood and how living in that house with his father and his stepmother, Solange, played by Kathryn Hunter, was horrible to him as a child. He said it was a hyper-religious upbringing and that there were so many things surrounding his childhood that just brought up a lot of trauma for him. They decide to go to the funeral, and when they get to the funeral, they talk to Solange, and the minister of the church comes up with Solange, and they have come to an agreement. And the agreement is that Solange wants to come and live with them in exchange for everything that she has, all of her wealth and belongings, and that she will give it to the family just to live out the remainder of her days with people that are in her family. And so the family reluctantly agrees to bring her in, and of course, as the baby is about to be born, weird things start to happen with Solange. She seems to know things, she acts very strangely, there's noises around the house in the night, and the entirety of the film is Belinda believing something sinister is going on and trying to convince her husband Norman that Solange needs to go. So like I said, this movie is downright horrendous, but I will say positives. Brandy, excellent. She does a lot in this movie. She's trying to eat up the screen time, and I thought she was fantastic. There were a couple of lines of dialogue in here. She was just owning it. She did a great job. Kathryn Hunter is also excellent in this movie. She plays creepy old lady perfectly. She has some really great dialogue delivery. She has to do some very uncomfortable things in this movie. If you read any reviews, there is a ton of pee and poop in this movie, and it is is a lot, and I'm sure as an actress in that age range, it was probably a lot to handle, but she does an amazing job with it, and I was really impressed with her performance, and I thought that she ate up the screen time. The movie is competently shot. There's actually some pretty cool shot selections in this that I think that the Eggers brothers did a great job paying attention to detail with their cinematographer to try to create an eerie and ominous environment. And that is all I've got. There's no more positives left. For starters, the story is incredibly dumb. The way the series of events plays out is dumb. They try to add way too much into this. For starters, they try to play with the race commentary at some point, where Belinda's character finds a Daughters of the Confederacy certificate and confronts Solange about it. And it turns into this really almost like laughable, poorly handled scene that feels like the commentary is so senselessly glazed over. You wonder why it was even incorporated in the movie in the first place. Like, if you're gonna make race a part of your horror movie, do something with it instead of just like adding it in casually to one scene and just letting it disappear. There's all this ideas surrounding religious trauma, and they try to incorporate it in a way that's like supposed to showcase Norman as dealing with a lot of experience with that and a lot of grief surrounding it. And it just doesn't really show throughout the movie. He's very lax about like the religious imagery, letting her pray at dinner, all of these different things. And I get the pressure you would experience getting money from someone, but there's also no pushback. And so it just felt like lazy writing. And as someone who's experienced a ton of religious trauma, being raised by a minister when I was a kid, it just felt mostly laughable. And that's the one word I would use to describe this movie, is laughable. The tone shifts are just so jarring in a way that it's uncomfortable, like musical choices from scene to scene. It felt like something from a different era and like it was a cheap made for TV movie. Like, I couldn't get over some of the editing choices and the musical cues, and I was just baffled by how this thing was put together. Like, are you trying to be a horror movie? Are you trying to be a parody? Are you trying to be so bad it's good? I couldn't really tell, and that's the biggest problem with this movie, is you just can't really tell what it's trying to be. And when it gets to the third act, it just ends, and then it continues for another 15 minutes just to tell you what you already assume happened at the end of the movie. And lackluster is really the word I would use to describe this entire experience. I didn't get anything out of it other than a few laughs at pee and poop jokes, which just made me feel juvenile again. But honestly, like, you think in that family, with Robert Eggers being the level of talent that he is and The Witch being his first movie, you would expect maybe something to that caliber, but we're not even scratching the surface here. We're miles and miles away from that with this movie. And if these boys want to make something again, I really hope they do a lot of script re-edits. I hope people will come to them and say, guys, take a different approach, because this is an awful start. So have you seen The Front Room? Did you love it? Did you hate it? Leave me a comment down below and let me know what you thought. I thought this movie was horrible. Aside from two really great performances, there's nothing here of value. As always, if you can like the video and subscribe to the channel, it helps me out a lot and lets me know the type of content you're looking for. I'm always putting out new material and look forward to getting more out for you in the near future. As always, everyone, thank you so much for watching and have a great rest of your day.